Up to this point, the flooring example has been pretty limited. It can calculate the square footage and cost of just one room. I'd like it to be able to total up multiple rooms and keep a running total. To do that, we're going to have to do a lot of catastrophic, overwhelming work. Well, probably not. But we do have to add a class level variable that's very often called a global variable. Let's jump in. So I have gone to my code folder where I save all my source code, and that's under a folder called The Nerd Is In, How Appropriate, under a folder called Code, and here you can see flooring. So if I go into flooring, you can see the flooring project, which is two major folders with lots of subfolders and lots of files. That's an entire project, but at the highest level, I have the Visual Studio Solution file, and if I double click on this, this will launch the project. Now, by the way, if I ever need to move this project around, go up to the top level folder, right click on it, say copy, go to your destination and paste. Do not ever try to save your project to a different location from inside of Visual Studio. It will get messed up. So let me double click on flooring and get it launched, and let's do a quick review of what flooring does. And to see how it calculates the square feet and the total cost, you can look at my previous video in the C# programming series. But I've got three inputs: length, width, and cost per square foot. I'm going to calculate square feet, total cost, and then add that to the grand total, and grand total is going to be the focus of this video. So right here, Visual Studio gives me a warning about scaling. I don't care about that. I'm just going to close it. I'm going to come up here and run the program. I'm going to hit start and drag my program onto the screen so you can see it. Let me minimize the compiler and everything but the program. And let's put in a room that is 15 feet by 10 feet, pretty small, but it's $5.95 a square foot. Calculate 150 square foot, $892.50, and my grand total went from 0 to $892 because I just have one room. Let's do another room. This room will be 20 by 25, and it's going to be more expensive flooring. It's going to be $9.95 a square foot. I hit calculate. It's 500 square feet. This room is $49.75. It adds $49.75 to the previous grand total, and we get $58.67, and so on and so on. You know, if I did Bill Gates, you know, he's got a ballroom that's 75 feet wide by 200 feet long, and he's going to put some really expensive Italian marble in there. I'm going to calculate. That room has 15,000 square feet. It's going to cost $449,000 and change, and that gets added to my total, which was 5,000 something. So now my grand total has gotten bigger. I can come here and clear my total. It zeroes it out, and I just put the word 0 in there so you can definitely see it. And I'll hit exit. So let's look at the code. I'm going to open up my code window by double clicking on the calculate button. So once I'm in here, here is my function button calculate click, and you can look at my previous video that explains how all this works. I have three input variables from the three text boxes, and I'm doing my inputs. Then I do my calculations, and then I do my outputs. Now what I've added in this program is a variable to hold the grand total, but it's not right here. It has to be a class level variable. So if I come up to just inside of my class form flooring, you'll see decimal, desc grand total equals 0. So it's a decimal. That's why I said DEC. I called it grand total, and it's really a good idea to start your totals at 0. Remember, C# does not initialize variables to 0 automatically. So this is a class level variable, sometimes called a global variable. I'm fudging a little bit, but this variable right here has a visibility in the entire class. So here's the beginning of my class, and my class goes all the way down, 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 down here to the end of the class, and that grand total variable can be used throughout all of this code. That is opposed to these 5 variables. Remember, 3 inputs from my 3 text boxes, 2 outputs to my 2 labels. These 5 variables are declared inside of this function, so they only exist from here to here, to the end of the function. These are local variables. Every time I run button calculate click, these get created, they get used in the program, and then when we hit the end of this function, they go away. They lose their values. They're non-permanent. Permanent. Bleh, you know what I mean. So, how do we do the grand total? Well, first thing we got to do is just do our regular inputs, do our regular calculations. So now I've got the room cost in this variable, desk room cost, which is room square feet times cost per square foot. Then what I have to do is add that to my grand total. So I'm using the shortcut operator plus equal, which means take this room cost and add it to desk grand total. Now, if you were being less elegant, you would do it this way. And I don't like this way because, extra typing is not my forte. But I could do it this way. I say, take the current value of desk grand total, add that to desk room cost, that's going to be my new total, and make that the new desk grand total. So I can do it this way, or I can do it this way, but don't do it both ways because then you're adding it in twice. So this is the preferred way in C++ and C#, so that's the way we're going to leave it. So I'm going to delete that. And then finally, the last thing I got to do is take my grand total that I have calculated here, take my grand total, turn it into a string. I'm doing it in currency style, so it's dollars and cents, and I'm putting it into label grand total. So I'm going to put a breakpoint right here on line 60, which is where I'm adding the room cost to the grand total. You just come over to the gray margin, you click, you get a red circle and a red line, which means my program, when I run my program, it's going to run normally until it hits this line of code, and then I can single step through my code in the debugger. So I'm going to hit start. Once again, bring my program on screen. What did I do? 10 feet by 15 feet at $5.95 a square feet. Calculate. So now you see it has run all the way to here. Now, it has not run this line of code yet, but we can see right now that it got 10 feet out of the text box, it got 15 feet out of the width text box, and the cost per square foot was $5.95. So we had 150 square feet and $892.50. So the room cost is $892.50, but my grand total right now is 0. If I come up to my toolbar and do step over, it will run that line of code, and now you can see my grand total is $892.50. And if I keep hitting step over, on this line of code right here, it will take the grand total and put it into the grand total label. But at this point, I am just going to hit the continue button to tell my program to run normally. So now you can see we've got our grand total. Let's do that second room. Let's do 25 by 20, and let's make it $9.95 a square foot, and hit calculate. It hits my breakpoint again. So now you can see that in this case we have 500 square feet because the room is 25 by 20. 20 times 25 is 500. And the room cost is $49.75. So we're going to take $49.75 and add it to my grand total, which is currently $892.50. We haven't run this line of code yet. So I'm going to come up to step over, run that line of code. Now you can see my new grand total is $58.67. And if we keep running, it will put that into the grand total label. I'll just hit continue. And now we can see our grand total. Now, to clear out the grand total, that is a different sub. So let's take a look at that. Let me stop my program, go back to my main window here, and I'm going to double click on clear total. Turns out that clear total is real easy. It is a different sub. Not sub, that's Visual Basic. It's a different function. So what did I do right here? I'm clearing out the grand total. I'm just setting it to 0, and then I just put the string ZERO 0 in the label, just so you could see very clearly that I had zeroed out the grand total. So because desk grand total is a class level variable, it can be accessed by all subs. So I am accessing it here in button calculate click. That's where I'm adding the grand total. But if I come down to clear, I'm also accessing it. So if you need to access a variable in more than one place, you need to make it a class level variable. If I was to have put this inside of button calculate click, it won't work. I mean, let me grab all this right here and let me get this formatted nicely. So here it is. Now it is local to button calculate click. It can only be seen in button calculate click. It cannot be seen anywhere else. So now if I go to my clear, you see I'm getting an error message. The name desk grand total does not exist in the current context. There is no desk grand total inside this function button clear. And there is not a class level variable for desk grand total. So if I have it here, first of all, my program's not going to compile because I have a visibility issue. The second issue is every time I run this sub, your grand total has to start out at 0. So it's going to zero it back out. So I'm never going to get a running total. So I need to have desk grand total up here, just inside my class, to make the program work. And then I can access it both from the button calculate click that adds to the grand total and button clear click that zeroes out the grand total. So that's what we have to do to be able to have our programs remember a value in between executions of a button function. This does not make it remember the value of the variable in between program runs because we're not saving it to the hard drive. All these variables are in random access memory, and as soon as the program ends, they go away, and it is another program to show how to save stuff to secondary storage, your hard drive. So that is how you do running totals or grand totals in C#. You have to create a class level variable just inside the class right here. And then that can be accessed by the entire program and modified by the entire program. So I hope you enjoyed this little video, and if you want to keep seeing more videos on my series for C# for Windows, I would sure appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. Take care.